Welcome to the With Joe Wehbe Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Gillage. So I'm going to read this. This is from the blog, With Joe Wehbe website. And this is very special to me because sometime a couple of months ago, I was trying to articulate for myself primarily what this is all for. What the work and stuff I like to do and those people around me, this is much bigger than me, want to do. And this is what I came up with. So I'm going to be reading it. If you're watching this, there will be a podcast episode which you may prefer. But I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'd rather just show it to you. But it's basically my ideal of my perfect village, the best world I'm capable of imagining at this point in time. I'm sure it'll change and evolve over time, but as a nice little timestamp to share with you all, this is Gillage. It all starts with the schools in Gillage. In Gillage, school is where students are taught to read, write, and count, and then play. They play football if they want. They play with coding if they want. They play with Lego if they want. They dress up and rehearse and put on plays if they want. They devote their time to music if they want. They run around free with no locked doors. They're at their friends' houses all the time. All the time. You see in Gillage, the lines between nuclear families are a little blurred. Like it is in the mountains of Nepal, they call a lot of people mum, and a lot of people dad. And in Gillage, children are allowed to develop a wide array of interests. In Gillage, our young are not told to give up their arts, their sports, their musical or inventive dreams. Their curriculum will be more minimalistic, less structured. No, they won't be taught that they'll be successful in life just by getting into university or college. University and college will be just a few of many available tools to build out one's life, and they will be used more sparingly at that. The University of Gillage will have no lectures, but it will have lots of roundtable discussions. Students at the University of Gillage will walk around in and out of these roundtable discussions. What do I feel like today? They will ask. A discussion on Anthony de Mello's awareness, quantum physics, avant-garde art. Will I sit down with the Trading Society or the Writer's Block? At the University of Gillage, you can walk up to anyone you need to help you do your next big thing. The University of Gillage is the ultimate connecting point. In Gillage, everyone will be allowed to develop what is known as interest wealth, or a wealth of interests. This means they won't blindly invest and commit years of their life into a narrow field they know nothing about, like chemistry or medicine or economics or psychology or an arts degree. Rather, they'll develop a range of interests. In this way, if they find that one ceases to fulfill them, they'll be able to move to another quickly. No getting anchored to one thing alone, no man of the instrument biases, and no getting planted in heavy ideology. Oh, and these children of Gillage, as a result, become much more interesting people at parties. No more boring small talk and idle chit-chat. You'll speak to Joe, who is interested in film, education, investing, karaoke, and more. You'll then move on from him and talk to Scott, who is passionate about the future of work, wide-ranging conversations, and openness. Next, have a chat with Nick, who wants to improve apprenticeships, sustainable building practices, licensing, and creating the spaces for thriving communities to realize themselves in. And there is no such thing as intelligence or talent in Gillage. In Gillage, not a single person will ever be described as intelligent or talented. And this is because, if we want to speak in myths, we'll speak in myths much more elaborate. Myths with dungeons and dragons and monsters much more fearsome than academic lecturers and subject matter experts. If we want to speak in myths, we'll have cruel witches with crystal balls who can actually tell the future, unlike the doctors and professors on the evening news who'd never admit to how little they know. None of us knows anything, and so none of us are intelligent. In Gillage, people are a bit wiser. The good people of Gillage understand that every single ability is a skill they have either in abundance or scarcity. Math, writing, public speaking, communicating, guitar playing, scientific thinking, emotional understanding, football ability, attentiveness, all these are skills built by the wrapping of myelin. Skills can be developed over time, or we can leverage the skills of others who cover our weak spots. Maddie might be great at math and managing money, whereas Trevor is not as skilled at managing money, but is gifted at emotional understanding. And that is okay. No one lives and dies by how good or bad they are on just one skill. They are a diverse network of skills. In truth and perpetuity, intelligence and talent are foreign to Gillage. The good people of Gillage have the assumption that almost anyone can get better and do almost anything. And children are left to think divergently. In Gillage, there are no tests for our children, no entry examinations or strict grading. No tests, you say? Yes, no tests, no examinations. Because children are not taught that there is one right answer in Gillage. Finding one truth to pin our flag to has been humanity's fatal drawback for centuries. At any one time, there are endless outcomes. What is the correct use of a spoon? Of a paperclip? Why can 5-year-olds think of more uses for a spoon and a paperclip than graduates of our most prestigious schools? Answer: because we spend decades conditioning them on two illogical conclusions. First, that there is only one right answer. The second, that you must get it right the first time. But no tests? Who could imagine such a thing? How do we decide who goes to college and university? Answer: the ones who are interested, who show a commitment to continual learning, the ones who continually emphasize how little they do know, and the ones who demonstrate how they are continually trying to learn. The ones who are willing to show us how unpolished and imperfect they are. Now, it sounds like madness to anyone who has not read 3 or 4 books. If you read books on failure, on art, on scientific thinking, on investing, on the stories of innovative tech founders, you notice a couple of key themes. Uncertainty. How powerful a tool uncertainty is when it is embraced. The value of open-mindedness and the harm that comes from being closed-minded and seeking always to be the one who is right. The importance of failure, which is different to stopping or quitting. Failures are the essential stepping stones on the essential journey through uncertainty. Divergent thinking. What sort of lawyer would you want when your back is against the wall? The one who has been taught only one way out, or the one who has been trained to think divergently, who can run through 1,000 ways to save your ass, who sees 1,000 angles? What sort of doctor do you want when you are critically ill? The one who only understands one disease, or the one who thinks Dr. House-like, with the creativity to see a range of possible diagnoses for your ailment? What sort of marketer do you want for your business? The one who sells every client billboard advertising? Or the one who has 1,000 different and new ideas about how to bring your dream to life and help others? What sort of builder do you want? The one who sells you one way to build the house? Or the one who can conjure up something creative, new, and unique for you? Charlie Munger taught me that if you want to change someone's behavior, don't appeal to their sense of logic. Change their incentives. What reason do we have for incentivizing narrow thinking rather than divergence? I'll tell you one such reason. In normal society, we have industries dominated by people with man of the instrument bias, who have built their entire life and sense of accomplishment around narrow box thinking for their specific industry. For example, the chief of the medical board has the most to gain by saying, "This is the way we've always done it, and so we will continue in this way, because this is how I've always done it." But if you have man of the instrument bias, you're not welcome in Gillage. If you're not capable of what I call without-the-box thinking, then you won't enjoy Gillage anyway. In Gillage, the entire culture around being right and successful is flipped. No one is ever right. No, not absolutely. No one can ever be absolutely certain about anything. Except, of course, that 2 + 2 = 4, and not 5. As such, we incentivize the sort of divergence that will change the world, that will open up the 1,000-door system for everyone. And in Gillage, children do not get taught a fear of failure. They are taught never to stop or quit. I said it above, but I'll say it again because this one is so important. When your child is young, they have no fear of failure. Your infant tries again and again to walk. They hold the couch as a support first until their muscles have calibrated enough to enable self-sufficient standing. The infant goes from not walking to walking, faster than older children go from the alphabet to getting their pen license. Our infants try talking before they are actually ready to talk. They try to participate in our conversations, but everything they say, perhaps unbeknownst to them, is babbling gibberish. But critically, they figure out it is gibberish only through their perseverance. The infant does not simply decide one day, I want to learn to speak English, or Mandarin, or German. They don't know what these things are. They don't conceive of their existence, yet they learn them anyway. So how? How can infants learn something that is A, incredibly complex, and B, something whose actual existence they're not consciously aware of? Answer. They continually try and play, with very little in the way of fear. They develop the core competencies for life through a scrappy process of play and development. This sort of skill development is called an open circuit. What is an open circuit? Well, this is where all the feedback required for the circuit to fire comes simply through the infant doing the thing. As they continually fire the circuit, myelin wraps around neural pathways in the brain, locking in the skill's electric signaling like a rubber sheath around copper wiring. 95% of everything in Gillage is built through this scrappy process. How were the pyramids or giant ruins of Baalbek built thousands of years ago before modern architecture? We can't be sure, and that might be because they didn't quite know what they were building themselves. Maybe, just maybe, they simply began and figured it out. The same way an author doesn't quite know what the final draft will look like when they start their first. Do these wonders of ancient civilizations puzzle us because, as I suspect, we simply can't fathom that people built things without the same level of preparation and detailed pre-planning that we consider essential today? As Seth Godin says, you can't create baseball players by sitting them in a classroom and giving them textbooks to study from, and tests to determine their baseball competency. There is no examination to pass before the baseball students get to graduate to the pitch and become baseball players. Football is also an open circuit. The infinite scenarios on the pitch cannot be taught abstractly. What players need to do is develop their ability to react to scenarios on the field, and the best way to do that, it turns out, is by playing. Letting the neural circuits fire. Thanks to Daniel Coyle and the talent code, we know that violin practice works a bit differently. To play Mozart is incredibly specific, thus requiring instruction and guidance from a teacher. But still, the young girl or boy will never play Mozart if they are afraid of failing. They can only play Mozart if they are willing to keep failing on their way. Stopping or quitting, on the other hand, is the only true obstacle to playing Mozart. In Gillage, we preserve the daringness of infancy. We never say, it's time to grow up and stop playing now. Why would we? Thomas Edison created 10,000 failed light globes on the way to the one that worked. James Dyson developed 5,217 insufficient prototypes before he was happy with his Cyclone vacuum cleaner. If these inventors looked at their failed prototypes as a mark of their competence, they never would have accomplished anything. How could they have persevered so thoroughly if they weren't simply playing when they did all this? And in Gillage, it's like Neverland, in that we never really grow up at all. Now, we don't have the same cognitive ability to adapt as the infant, but that doesn't mean we need to pause play. When people of any age play football, they don't question their self-worth when they misplace a pass or shot. It does not stop them from trying again and again, because they never stop feeling that they are playing. All worthwhile endeavours should feel like play. There is no need or purpose in Gillage to grow up to become an overly serious business person or parent. In Gillage, the people live in a mode of play not just because it's the most fun way to live, but it's also the most productive way to live. In Gillage, you'll find a lot of people like me who, grown up they may be, commit to continually and publicly making a fool of themselves. Yet these same people will be with you at the coffee shop the next morning discussing Maslow's hierarchy of needs and new startup ideas to improve community in Gillage and non-Gillage parts of the world. No, in Gillage, there won't be much growing up at all. And there is no teenage delinquency in Gillage. But children still do darish stunts. They still sneak in a drink a bit earlier than they should. Maybe they shoplift a little too. But there is less of a fixed establishment and dictating system to rebel against. In the Garden of Eden, Eve is tempted by the forbidden fruit because it is forbidden. When less is forbidden, there is less error and wrongdoing. There is less wrongdoing to be done when there is less wrongdoing to do. In Gillage, we understand that young people, particularly males, are young, and that they will try to peacock for the sake of impressing their peers. But in Gillage, we will offer a lot more love and affection as a community, going further to create self-acceptance in our young. There will be less delinquency when we spend less time yelling and telling our youth what they can't do, and spend more time telling them that they can do anything. Imagine such a thing? Less time spent being told you're a failure? Remember, in Gillage, there are less tests and examinations, less finite judgments of competency. There are less instances of youth who say, I can't do this, so I'm going to do that. And a lot what we've decided is delinquency will not appear rebellious because older people like me, will be doing it all the time. Things like making a public fool of myself at the local Hound Dogs karaoke bar with a few too many drinks, or running around with my shirt off in the freezing cold at night. We will treat those who step out of line and hack the system like the FBI treated Frank Abagnale. We'll say, we'd be more cross with you if you weren't so interested in how you did it. What if we incentivize you to do this thing in a way which serves and creates value for others instead of taking from the pile? In Gillage, we don't want to minimize the number of 12-year-olds hacking important websites. We want an army of 12-year-olds hacking important websites. For such children show true without-the-box thinking, the sort of inventiveness that moves humanity forward. So instead we'll say, that was incredible. Now try creating a system that 12-year-olds of tomorrow can't outsmart. Here's a good incentive to do so. In other words, we deal with delinquency and wrongdoing the same way we deal with all failures, as opportunities to apply the slingshot principle. Failure is the opportunity to make something better than if it had initially succeeded, if it had done things right on the dreaded first attempt. Because any delinquency or wrongdoing is really the type of failure where something is done in a way we didn't think to be right, correct, or generally fair.